All right, we are on. All right, what it is, YouTube, what it is. It's your boy Q Easy, the Double Easy, another episode of All About the Semis. Today, we got your boy back on the Chizano, my man LT, the lean trucker, doing his thing. Y'all already know he leveling up out there on the for real. He trying to be on the low with it though. But
hey, that's what's up, man.
If y'all ain't checked out his channel, check out his channel, the Lean Trucker. And as always, we appreciate you guys that support us and look at us. And we just want to give y'all information and stuff that y'all want to see.
Indeed.
So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. We just going to speak more on the owner-operators and the differences between, Landstar and some of the other companies and, what you guys kind of can expect on coming to this side of the field, because it's not really about whether you be at Landstar or whether you be at Snyder or whether you be at when you're going on the op side, it don't matter where you're at, you still going to carry certain responsibilities. So with that being said, my first question to you, El, is now that you got your own authority, is it something that you're happy that you did when you did it?
When I did it, to be honest, man, I was like jumping in the ocean.
You were doing what?
I say when I first did it, it's like I was jumping in the ocean.
Okay. Okay.
To be honest, it didn't even jive with my personality. I'm the kind of person that's very calculated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the kind that just jump off the cliff and figure out the consequences later.
Right.
And in this case, I actually did. I was leased on locally with a fuel company, and then like the direction things were going, it had been down for like 6 months plus, and all I was hearing was, man, the money in flatbed, especially in Texas, the money in flatbed. So
right.
I knew a guy who was with this dispatcher, and I talked to her myself, and she was like, yeah, I can get you, $3,500, $4,000. I'm like, locally? Yeah, locally. And she said if I was trying to go to, let's say about 2 hours out, if I was willing to go 2 hours outside the Metroplex, it could be around $4,500.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, cool. And I just jumped out there. But that's not me. That's not typically what I do.
Right.
But yeah, I jumped out of the ocean, man. It was sink or swim.
Now, cost-wise, did you jump out there with an authority right away?
Right away. And yeah, I did it right away. And
can we ask what was the startup cost that you incurred coming out, minus the truck? Because we're going to assume that people that are trying to get to this side, we're going to assume they know they got to get a truck. You got to get a truck.
Okay.
So the actual cost for you, was it more than you anticipated?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Man, say absolutely. Okay, so the insurance cost was $3,500 down. And I was trying to check with a couple of different places, like, this can't be right,
Mm-hmm.
But the guy I told y'all I knew that was with that dispatcher. He was like, yeah, bro, that sounds about right. I'm like, man, okay. So $3,500 down, and it was $969 a month, $969 a month. Now I know, though, from talking to other YouTubers and listening to other channels, I really didn't have it that bad.
Right, because that's really good. Mm-hmm.
Right, to me it was horrible, because my backdrop real quick was, when I was leased on with that fuel company, I was under their DOT, all that. So the only thing I paid for was bobtail, and I believe maybe it wasn't cargo, or maybe cargo, but it wasn't the big one, the liability, all the liability. That's where all the money is.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I was paying roughly $150, $180 a month. That's why it was a shell shock.
Right.
I had no money down with them,
Right.
So anyway, to get back to it, that was getting started. I didn't have a trailer, so I had to go out and find a way to get that. I decided to rent one because I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. I didn't want to buy one. So I went and rented one, and because I got really good credit, I was able to get approved with them because you have to have at least a 650 credit score. So I got one with them, leasing, renting at $625.
Now, can I stop you there? Was that a hard process getting that trailer with your own authority?
No, that was very easy. That was just simply.
And I say that to say that so for those that don't know, and that's another difference when you have your own authority versus trying to. I'm an independent contractor. I want to go to Landstar with my own truck and my own trailer and go rent a trailer. You'll find that most companies don't want to rent to the owner, operator, independent contractor guy for whatever reasons. It's a lot harder. So I'm intrigued to find out, and I don't know if you know that or not, but I'm intrigued to find out that that was a pretty painless process, because I'll tell you, when I started out, I went to try and get a couple trailers from like Premier, LTZ, Leasing. There's a couple of them I went to, and they were like, we don't lease to just owner operators like that. So there's some companies out there that do, but it is very hard to get a trailer. So anybody, the viewers that know and that got the other extra input on that, I love to hear about that. But be warned, even though you got your own truck and you're just going out, somebody with their authority will get a trailer a lot easier than the guy that's just wanting to come out in the pocket and pay for it. And I'm thinking it's probably an insurance thing, more so than it is a money thing, because that insurance stretches a lot further than your bobtail insurance when you start getting into the authority thing. But yeah, I just wanted to speak to that.
That's good info, man. To be honest, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It actually makes a lot of sense, because I knew about at least 3 guys that came out from the same company. We all left at different times, but we all left. Mm-hmm. They had a hard time finding a trailer, so they ended up getting one from, said local spot over here, but they was charging them stuff like $800 a month. So with me, I was never using them as an option. I looked up some things, and someone told me about a place. It's called Irvine here in the Dallas area. And at that time, they was renting them. They just the only problem is you gotta have a good credit score. Like, I got that, and that's why it was painless for me, because the criteria really was just that. Like, they didn't want any money down. It was none of that. It was just actually, I'll tell you the bank. I don't remember the exact number, but they did want something. I think it was like a hold on my credit card or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That was pretty painless on that end, but I haven't seen anybody else. Now that you said that,
yeah, it's a lot harder. And unless you could, because my next move was to go into check other states and around and see, because it was really hard. With that being said, but so we got the trailer and everything, and then so you're at about what you say, about $3,000. I think you said you were with the insurance.
35 with the insurance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other stuff month to month. The monthly payment on the insurance was $969.
The authority cost you how much? The authority
cost me $400. But that's because I paid somebody else to do it.
Okay. And I thought that's actually pretty good, considering, because I've seen places doing it itself is almost like that. But when you're doing a lot more of it like that. But I've seen it as high as $900, $800, $1,200. So.
Yeah, me too. It was one of them things where I just talked to the right people. Yeah. And they told me it was $300. Like, I knew, but it was like, at that time, I was just ready to go. I was being impatient. The dispatcher lady telling me how much money I could be making. I was like, I want to get out of here, So I decided it's just an extra $100 anyway.
Yeah. Smart move on a business side anyway, because I feel like the less that you can spend on your time, the better, especially when you're starting out, because you can't get in that mindset that you got to do everything. I mean, that's a whole nother video, but yeah, it
is because in a little sense I disagree with you on that part.
Yeah.
I got my reasons why.
Yeah, and I'm always up for a great debate. I'm ready for a good debate. But but you know, I'm just saying though, like when you try and do everything,
Right.
sometimes it's more beneficial to give that to somebody else and let them do it. But you know, if it makes sense, you know, that's all I'm saying. If it makes sense, don't try and save $100 for 2 hours. If it's going to cost you 2 hours when you can make 1,500 in 4 hours, you see. So that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes it's just better. But that goes, I think, with business planning, you know. But nonetheless, these are things you guys gotta take into mind when you coming out on the op side. You know, these are more things that, because like you said in one of the videos I watched, that you said you're doing everything, you know, and you go into it kind of thinking that you're going to have to do everything. But I don't think a lot of guys realize what everything is.
I would say this. To be honest, I didn't know what to expect. That's what I meant by I just jumped out in the ocean.
Right.
Everything was thrown at me from the factoring part. That was another thing with an independent contractor. You got to know how you're gonna get paid. Mm-hmm. You know, I just had to educate a guy who I know. He took a load, his first load coming back in from like Missouri or somewhere out there. And he was like asking me how he was going to get, well, he didn't ask me how he was going to get paid, but he asked me how do it work. Mm-hmm. And this after he read the load, you know, like he didn't know that he had to actually invoice them. So you don't deal with that when you leasing on with somebody else. You ain't invoicing people and all that. Mm-hmm. You can either use a factoring company or leasing on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry, invoicing. He didn't know, so he was sitting around 2 weeks. Not sitting around literally, of course.
Right.
Sitting around 2 weeks, and finally he asked me, and I told him. And then they called him and said, "Yeah, we're gonna need an invoice. It's gonna be 30 days from the
invoice." Right.
So them 2 weeks, he was just wasting around. And see, that's the type of stuff that I learned. All that kind of stuff
on the fly.
Now the dispatcher, to her credit, had some of this information. You know, as far as like, well, you need to get a factoring company, you know, so I was kind of getting educated along the way.
Now, would you say that are you happy the way that you went about it? Are you glad that you went ahead and got your own authority versus going to get leased on?
You actually did ask me that. Yes, I am, because I did the lease. I was on the lease thing. The lease, well, I didn't lease. Let me be clear. I didn't lease a truck.
Right.
I just leased on. You know.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, look, I was on a rotating schedule for a time. When I say rotating, literally, like you'll work 5 off 2, and you'll work 6 off 2. Mm-hmm. We was in the fuel business is a 24, 365. Christmas, the whole 9. There are 0 days off. So however your off days fell is just how they fell. Finally, I got to the point where I had set off days, but it was, I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday or Sunday and Monday, because I was on both sides. But the catch to that was, if we call you, if we need you, you have to come in. Mm-hmm. If there's something you can't do, you got to go back to rotating. And that's the point. I feel like a glorified company guy.
Right.
You know, you telling me my schedule, you telling me, you know, that kind of stuff, where now as an independent guy, I don't have to work. If I decide tomorrow I don't want to go to work, I don't have to, you know, say, no, I'm done. You know, I don't feel like working tomorrow. I don't have to go.
Right. Now, see, I'm glad you spoke to that, because a lot of guys have that understanding, or rather lack of understanding of how that works. And what I found interesting is, because I'm learning something just from you talking about that, is that you leased your truck onto a company that basically tried to run you like a company driver. And there's a lot of that out there. Like, there's a lot of that out there. And to me, that was when I realized that there are different avenues to leasing on. Okay, so you can lease on, you can have your truck and do like you did and lease onto a company that will run you pretty much like a company driver with maybe a little bit more pay than the company, maybe a little bit more. And then there's leasing with company drivers, companies like Warner, Schneider, JB Hunt, they have company drivers and owner operators. I always stayed away from that, because if I'm leasing with a company that's got company drivers, then potentially I'm in competition with the company drivers. They're not going to want to give a guy with me that's a $3,000 load when they can give it to this guy and pay him, $900 or $500 cents per miles on the load. But there's companies like that. Hence the reason I went to Landstar. Hence the reason I looked into Landstar and Mercer, Mercer and Schneider, I think are up there with that as well. And the same exact thing, for you guys that don't know, Landstar is all owner operators. It's all BCOs. It's no competition with the company drivers, and we're not even in competition with each other because you got your flatbeds, you got your tankers, you got your low boys and heavy haul. And again, ain't nobody coming to hunt you down when you want to work. If you don't want to work, you ain't got to work, However, those bills that you pay, those recurring weekly charges are going to show up at your door every week. So that might be the difference from what you do as a having your own authority, because see, I still have my weekly tag money comes out for my tags, and then I have my bobtail come out. My weekly expenses, though, they're around like $200 a week, but that's covering my insurance and my tags. But I still have for the freedom of being able to work when I want to work, go where I want to go, book my own loads, and deal with my own money. That's the trade-off where I let Landstar deal with all the back end stuff that I don't want to deal with. And I think you spoke to that too on one of your videos when you were saying there's guys that just don't want to deal with it. It's a certain breed. They just like, look, let me just tell me where to go, let me drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna leave that where it's at. But so and I think guys need to understand it, and that's also the difference too, as you said, with independent contractors. You have a little bit more support, if you will. You have a little bit more of a support system versus, I think, the owner operator that's completely on his own authority, own everything. Everything falls on him. So,
yeah, and you know what? Let me say this, just to back up real quick. They literally ran me like a company guy. When I say that, whatever loads you had were the loads you had. Now, in the contract, it says, no forced dispatch, right? But the moment that you say, I can't run that, when they say, well, I can take the loads off for you. You see? Right. Essentially telling you you're going to run them or you're going to stay at home.
Now, did they have company drivers?
Yes, they did. So, and check this out. Now, I will say this. You're not the first person I hear say that. At this particular company, I give them that credit. The company guys were never in the way. And the reason why there wasn't, because essentially just straight up they were lazy. Like industry standard were 4 loads a day. So they would do their 4 and they want to go home. You got a guy who's independent, well, not independent, but leased on,
right,
who want to make his money. I could do like 5 or 6. So the work was there. It was just that I had no control over much of anything. Now, the positive side of it, my expenses and all that was minimal, just monthly. It was very minimal. Like what I just heard you say about Landstar, honestly, that sounds kind of like the best of both worlds between what I was doing and what I am doing, because what I'm doing now, it's all on me. That back page stuff you just said, I don't have an option.
Right.
But you also, you got the freedom to determine, I want to take a week off.
Right.
To book your own loads. There's literally no forced dispatch because you are the dispatch.
Right.
So, so you got it. I think that's an awesome setup, to be honest with you.
And I think it's good, too, for guys that, because I'm going to tell you, let me say this. At one point, I was going to go ahead and do my own authority. And who knows? I may still in the future. I may. But after being a little bit more experienced in the business and leasing the different companies. And I mean, I've been around, I've been around and learning the business. Once I got here, it was literally for me like, why, um, why even go ahead and get the authority for me? And with one truck, and it was kind of one of those things where COVID had hit in the process of that decision making. But once I got over here and realized I had everything I wanted, it just didn't make sense for me. And again, you talked about the numbers. The numbers had to make sense. Like, you literally can almost choose what you want to make, because you're looking at the load board, you're looking at the loads and seeing how you want to run, and have that, like you said, that option of best of both worlds. The negatives, if any,
There you go. That's actually what I was going to ask you. I'm actually going to tell
yeah, if any, what I find at Landstar is everybody's negatives are going to be different. For me, and you might think I'm lying when I say this, I say I have none, but I do have this to say. I had one person say is that there is no hand holding. There's no help. Once you're out there, you're out there. They are not going to hold your hand. Now, you could call the corporate office, and they are very helpful when you call. I will give them that. And they'll point you, and they have a lot of resources to, if you're struggling with booking and all that kind of stuff, they have a lot of stuff to show you that. But, I mean, like I told you, I took 10 days off. My phone didn't ring once, and it's kind of hard to find negatives in that, I think generally they say if you take 10 days off, they will come looking for your trailer to assign it to somebody else. And then they'll reassign you another trailer because they're like, hey, we can use that trailer. But I think with freight being down, I've heard guys saying they've been holding on to trailers for 2-3 weeks and not a phone call. One guy told me he was off for a month. Nobody called him about a trailer, but nobody calls you. Now, here's the trade-off. I won't call them negatives, but I will say here's some trade-offs. I need to plug my phone up real quick. Hang on one second.
All right. Yeah, I mean, for you guys that's out there listening, we don't know what the trade-offs are, but that's a pretty good setup that they have going.
Whoever's designed the company, they knew what they were doing. Make your drivers happy, and then they have their brokers are guys like you. Now that you done touched on that side, you can actually go on Landstar and put your load. I could pull your load. You see what I'm saying? And they have probably about 5,000 or 6,000 guys like you all over the world that are posting their look. So they're really making out like, because they ain't really they got their own customers, and they got brokers signed on, and then they hold the brokers to a certain accountability. So guess what? I ain't got to worry about the tension. You gonna pay me, or you gonna get booked off, and Landstar's gonna pay me, and you gonna get booked off. So it's kind of like, it kind of didn't make sense for me to go another route. But here's the trade-offs now. So I have to be on top of my truck. Whereas on operator, he might can pull a little straight, he might can leave a little leeway because ain't nobody's gonna check behind him, until he go into something major happening, and then, But I gotta stay on my PMs. I gotta do them every 4 months. I gotta, if I get too many speeding tickets, guess what? If I get too many, any kind of really tickets or violations, or you're held to a different standard because they hold you to a different standard. So you could just easily lose your contract just like that, just for things like that. That's the downfall to me. Are they riding you saying, hey, don't be speeding, hey, they're not telling you what to do. But if it happens, hey, you got one. I think you can get maybe 2 a year, and 2 speeding violations or one accident. After that, you're done. Whereas the owner operator has his own authority, he don't have to really worry about that too much. It's just his insurance might go through the roof, but
yeah, you know what? That's all I was gonna say is that what I think a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of times your insurance company or theirs, whoever, dictate the standards. Like, I can decide I know another YouTuber. I'm not gonna say his name
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think he put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But he getting his own authority. He already got it. He wanted to
Mm-hmm.
bring some guys under him.
Mm-hmm.
The company that he's currently with told him you can only do a max of 2. Bring under your authority. That's it. Through this year, if things go well, we can do maybe 3, and, you know. But that's the point. The point is, it's not him saying, "Hey guys, I can only do 2." It's them saying, "Hey, you can only do 2." So just like that, they're the same people that can tell you, me, with my own authority, and say, "Hey, we can't insure this guy. He got 2 speed tickets." There's no. What I'm saying is, Landstar rules may not even be Landstar rules.
Well,
it may be their insurance company, or maybe a little less. You know?
I'm a disagree with you only because I know that Landstar is self-insured. So when the companies are most of these bigger companies, they're self-insured.
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And self-insured, you're absolutely right.
And that's why the companies like Warner and Swift, they can hire these students right out of school. Where other companies are like, look, we need 2 years. I'm sorry, you got to have. That's why, because their insurance is, like you're saying, is telling them that. But Swift, Warner, PTI, is a lot of them out there that hire students. That's why, because they're self-insured. They make the rules. And
I got you.
And
see, the company I was with, they determined their insurance determined.
Right.
What I was installing with.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't there. They
Right.
Yeah.
And that's usually like that with the medium-sized company. But getting that's another nugget that I learned, and in my road trying to learn and working with different companies. Like, well, why I'm having this issue here, not this issue here, not that issue there, and after a while, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe there is some truth to this. But yeah, that's good. That's good info. Yeah, I mean, coming out as a with your own authority right off the bat, man. I mean, that's gangster, man. I mean, well, that's super gangster, man. Cause hey, look, I don't know if I could have did that one. I was a lease driver. I worked for a company for 4 months. I worked with Warner for 4 months, left Warner and went out and got my own truck after that, man. And I was a lease driver for multiple companies for several years before I actually bought my own. But again, and I talk about this in another video, that my plan was always to go to Landstar because I had already did the research. I already had, but at the time, Landstar told me I didn't have enough experience. So, which I never told nobody that. But Landstar said, nah, man, they rejected me the first time. It's like, no, you come back in another whatever, we'll try again. I said, I'm gonna hold y'all to that, And I went back out there and spin the wheel some more with Suntech, and actually Suntech asked me to come back today when I picked up my truck because the company the company that I took my truck to fix is one of their registered agents. And they were like, you want to come back? How's Landstar taking? I said, I don't think so, But yeah, they and same thing with Suntech. You got to have 2 years to drive for them. So,
wow.
Yeah, you got to have 2 years. They ain't taking nobody under 2 years. Whereas Landstar, I think Landstar now is down to a year that you can